Speaker, I yield 5 minutes to the author of this important resolution, a champion of human rights and the co-chair of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission, my friend, the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. McGovern.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Thank you. And I want to thank the gentleman for yielding me the time and for his leadership on programs that protect and address the needs of vulnerable children here at home and around the world. Mr. Speaker, I am very proud to be the author of this bipartisan resolution along with Congressman Joe Wilson. And I'm very proud of the 62 bipartisan co-sponsors on this bill that represent the geographic and ideological diversity of this House. I also want to thank the broad coalition of organizations that have worked so long in support of this resolution, in particular Child Fund, Save the Children, World Vision, Futures Without Violence, and UNICEF USA. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter supporting this resolution from these groups and others.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, even though we have made great strides in identifying and addressing much of the violence that affects children and young people around the world, the sad reality is that violence against children is still pandemic. Every 5 minutes, a child dies of violence. Half of all children, 1 billion, are victims of violence. Homicide is among the top 5 causes of death in adolescence. That's not just a shame, Mr. Speaker, that's absolutely unacceptable. 80% of those homicide victims are boys, and nearly 1 in 5 girls is sexually abused at least once in her life. Sadly, violence can happen anywhere, in communities, in schools, in the home, in emergency and crisis situations, in churches, on the streets, online, and on the phone. It happens in the most idyllic-seeming neighborhood and in the midst of conflict and war. Violence takes many forms: human trafficking, child marriage, child labor, murder, assault, beatings, psychological abuse, and online exploitation. And too much of the violence is based on gender. We know that children who are exposed to violence at a very young age can be affected for life. Violence can impair brain development. It can damage the circulatory and immune systems. Such violence can cause lifelong risks of being vulnerable to disease, illness, and disabilities. It can harm the ability to reproduce and engage in a full sexual life. And it can severely affect the ability of a child to live up to their full potential. Luckily, nations, healthcare providers, teachers, communities, and non-governmental groups have come together to end violence against children. They have identified and agreed upon some solutions to ending violence against children. And we in this House should be proud that the CDC, USAID, and the World Health Organization and others have developed what is called the INSPIRE package, which is a set of strategies to reduce and end violence against children everywhere. So many of us in this chamber are parents. I'm the father of a son and a daughter. I know how we worry about our children's safety and well-being. This is true of all families everywhere. In many ways, each and every child is our child. We need to be concerned about their vulnerability, about their safety, about their care and their protection. This resolution announces to the world that we are aware, that we do care, and more importantly, that we want our health and aid agencies to take action. So I urge all of my colleagues to support this resolution. I thank my colleagues for their support, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Rhode